The story begins with a poor boy named Rudo who has the hobby of stealing trash from rich people's dumpsters. This world is divided into the white-walled city, where the rich and wealthy live, while filthy trash like Rudo live in the black slums outside. In this world, there is a legend that every object has a soul, and it shows its true potential if you care for it enough. But the rich throw away anything that's even a little used, and all of it ends up at a massive trash-collecting site, which ultimately gets thrown into the great pit along with the people who have committed crimes. One day on the rich side, a woman tells her daughter to toss out her stuffed toy after it gets a little damaged. She says fixing it will only make it look ugly, and they can always buy a new one. Hearing this, the little girl wipes her face and throws it away without a second thought as she starts talking about wanting a kitty cat for her next one. After that, her mom packs up all the trash and drops it into an underground vent where it ends up in a garbage truck. The truck reaches the collection site and Rudo jumps off on his way to one of the side rooms to look for anything usable. And there he accidentally makes too much noise for the guard to notice. The guard quickly breaks in and points his gun at the boy, asking if he is the infamous trash raider, and then smashes that alarm button to call for backup. Rudo eats some trash at the guards, and somehow that's enough to traumatize them for a lifetime. They freeze up and get too disgusted when a few rotten eggs mess up their spotless uniforms. As the clean freaks stand there in shock, Rudo climbs up the vent right in front of them. He pops out near the exit, but his luck runs out and the gate slams shut in his face. Before he can even think of plan B, more guards show up and start shooting at him. Rudo dodges the bullets like a pro and runs straight for the exit. He jumps over the wall and manages to get away with just a small scratch on his arm. The guards shout that they can't let a kid escape, while Rudo crawls out through a sewer hole and curses the rich for guarding their trash dump like it is Arkham Asylum. The next day, news about the trash raider spreads like wildfire. The elites find it harder to believe someone would actually go through the trouble of stealing garbage. They look at a poor man from the slums with disgust and complain that it wouldn't hurt the slum people to just stay on their own side. On the other side of the wall, the poor people already know who is behind all of the commotion, and they pray that the annoying kid kicks the bucket before he ends up dragging the guards to them. But Rudo doesn't care at all and keeps fixing the junk he collected. Just then, his future wifey Chua shows up and scolds him for going after trash again because she's worried that something bad might happen if the trash management catches him one day. Rudo tells her that the rich keep throwing out perfectly good stuff and he simply uses that to make a living. Just then, a group of bullies shows up to make fun of him and say they finally found the source of the awful stink in the area. They even tell Chua to stop hanging out with him before she becomes stinky as well. One of them knocks over Rudo's stuff and says no one's ever going to buy any of it. They also make fun of his hands and say that they are so nasty that he needs dirty gloves just to hide them. Rudo stays quiet through all the bullying, but he gets triggered the second they call him the son of the crazy murderer. The bullies start talking about how the slums were built to trap criminals like him and how they're trying to change that by earning back their respect. But Rudo's father ruined everything they've worked for with his serial murderer reputation. Rudo gives them a nasty side eye and that freaks them out for a second, so they throw one last insult that he's probably going to end up just like his dad and run off. After they leave, Chua steps in to calm him down and tells him she still believes in him. Her eyes then land on the same stuffed animal from before and she lights up, being amazed at how nice it looks. Rudo says it's not for sale, but right when he's about to give it to her, Chua's mom shows up and pulls her away, scolding her for hanging around with that weirdo again. The heartbroken guy heads over to his foster father, Recto, who starts mimicking him, teasing how he tried to raise Chua by giving the toy to Hurl. This embarrasses Rudo because he didn't even realize he was being watched. The old man then brings up the dumpster diving business and tells the boy that they are not so poor that he needs to go to such lengths. He asks him to leave these things to him until he grows up and reminds him how he could have been caught last night. Rector suspects that the boy might feel indebted to him for taking him in, but Rudo disagrees, explaining that he only wanted to do his part as family. The old man then shifts the topic to Chua and urges Rudo to be more honest with her. Just then, Recto notices an injury on Rudo's arm and begins to treat it, so he asks him to remove his gloves as well. After his gloves come off, what he sees underneath are painful, pitch-black arms that look almost like they were cursed. Rudo blames his father, who was sentenced to death and thrown into the pit. Rudo had to suffer through everything alone the whole time. Not only did people judge him for his appearance, but his hands hurt badly as well. Ever since the day Recto gave him the gloves, his pain became a lot more bearable. After giving him first aid, the old man convinces Rudo to tell Chua how he truly feels, warning that he might lose her if he keeps waiting. Meanwhile, outside the house, a mysterious figure spends the night silently watching him. The next day, after getting a how to smile lesson from Recto, Rudo musters up some courage and heads over to look for Chua. On his way, his eyes catch a person being thrown into the pit while everyone calls him nasty names. As he wonders what happens to the people down there, Chua shows up with a cheerful good morning, so Rudo quickly hides the stuffed toy behind him while Chua finds it pretty sad that people here are forced to watch the execution whether they want to or not. She then says that she doesn't want to see Rudo being thrown there, but if he keeps putting his life in danger, he's gonna meet this horrible ending. When Rudo argues that his old man nags him on the same thing, Chua replies that he probably loves him just as much as she does. After the two realize what the girl just said, Rudo finally proposes to her with the stuffed animal and hopes that she will like it even if it came from the dumpsters. The girl happily accepts the gift and says she'll treasure it forever. After that, Rudo blushes with excitement and jumps around as he plans to quickly tell his recto and see his reaction. But right as he takes a sharp turn, some guards slam into him. Still, his excitement stays strong and he gets up to rush over to Recto's place. But as he opens the door, he finds a masked man inside with a sword stabbed straight in Recto's chest. Then Rudo dashes toward the masked murderer in a desperate attempt to avenge his father, but the guy overpowers Rudo and slams him against the wall. As Rudo barely manages to get up, the masked man takes a book and leaves. Recto tries to say something, and when Rudo promises he will help him survive, Recto yells at him to run away and change this garbage world. As Recto breathes his last, the guards show up in the worst possible spot and Rudo gets charged with the murder of Recto, who was the only real family he ever had. Rudo tries to resist, but the guards accuse him, saying that being covered in blood is enough proof, and one of them smashes his fist into Rudo's face to knock him out. After that, everyone gathers around Rudo's house, talking trash about him, even Chua wonders if Rudo actually did it. Then Rudo gets taken to the execution site where he is hung up above as one of the priests gives a long, boring speech saying that someone who commits murder has no right to stay on their pure land. As he sentences the kid to death, the people chant together to send the trash to the pit where it belongs. Rudo cannot believe how everything turned out and quietly looks over the crowd, almost begging someone to save him from this fate. He shouts at Chua, telling her that his old man was murdered, and begs her to find the real culprit. But instead, Chua calls him a murderer just like his father and throws away his stuffed toy before running off. After the crowd starts chanting and calling him the scum of society again, Rudo has a mental breakdown and laughs like a madman on realizing that these people are the real scum with no minds of their own. Just as the head priest gives the order to throw the boy away, Rudo gets a look at the murderer standing in the crowd. But by then, he is already getting dragged toward the pit, and as he falls, he silently swears to make every single one of these humans pay and drag them all to hell. While falling, he feels something strange, and then everything goes dark. When Rudo finally wakes up, he finds himself lying in a pile of garbage that reeks horribly. As he turns around, he sees a massive trash monster made entirely from the junk thrown down by the people above. This place looks just like hell, and Rudo starts to panic in fear. At that moment, Rudo remembers that ever since he was a kid, he thought it was strange that the rich care so much about crime and filth, but they never stop to think about what happens after they're thrown in the pit. He is triggered by the fools who call him a filthy monster even though they don't know anything about the real monsters down here. Back in the pit, he sees the giant trash monster chasing him stop and start roaring. That summons even more monsters that quickly circle around him. As the beasts surround him, he wonders what these things really are because trash isn't supposed to run around on 4 legs. He barely dodges by rolling away from one of their attacks and keeps running until he trips and almost ends up kissing a rotten skull like it's a Disney princess. His hopeless situation makes him rage and he curses the scum who threw him in the pit. Just then, the pile under him collapses and crashes down. With injuries all over his body, Rudo thinks the air is so polluted that every breath feels like it is ripping through his lungs and he knows he won't last long. He covers his nose and looks around for a place to rest, but then it hits him like a truck that there's no safe spot in this hell where the only thing alive is garbage. Rudo coughs up so much blood that even the trash monster feels bad and slowly creeps closer to end his sad existence. At that moment, Rudo thinks it's a fitting end for a man like himself, but right before he passes out, he sees a vision of Recto dying right in front of him. And that scene awakens his power. After that, he sees glowing objects all around him, so he grabs the nearest one, which is a crowbar. Looking up at the sphere where he once lived, he makes a revenge list of everyone who treated him like dirt, but at the top of his list is the scumbag who murdered Recto in cold blood and then simply walked away scot-free. After smacking the trash monster with his crowbar, Rudo swears to himself that he will stay alive long enough to beat the guts out of that scummy criminal. Not far from him, a man sitting on his trash throne watches Rudo go in and whack the monster. He gets impressed seeing a newbie fearlessly fly in with blood leaking from every hole on his face. After Rudo lets the beast know it stinks worse than Recto's farts, he gets a solid hit in, but the monster smacks him into a tower and smashes it right before he gets out of the way. However, the mad lad grabs an even bigger rod and shoots it like a boomerang at the monster. Just then, one of them surprise attacks him from below, and his condition becomes so bad that he can't stop coughing blood as the creature's close in. At that moment, his power surges again, and he locks in right before they jump him. After Rudo cuts off their arms, he uses his steel plate to slice them clean in half like a boss and comes out the other end, after which it explodes. With the danger gone, he falls to his knees and gets depressed. His bad luck doesn't end there though, because an even bigger monster spawns behind him and roars loudly to call for backup. Rudo runs as fast as possible across the trashy hills when the monster suddenly smashes the ground and sends him flying like a rag doll. Then he opens his eyes and sees his sus man holding up an umbrella for him. Rudo wonders who the masked guy is as he lifts him from his hood and throws him away, which makes him cough up even more blood, so the masked man suddenly straps a mask over his face to help him breathe before standing in front of him like a hero. Then Rudo throws out a bunch of questions, so the man signals him to hush, which only makes Rudo more annoyed. The guy politely tells him to shut up again. Rudo gets louder and asks what kind of hellhole they're in, but the man replies they're not underground and seriously tells him to dial it down. Not able to hear the masked guy's voice, Rudo shouts that he doesn't understand a word, so the masked man finally yells at the brain-dead monkey that they're not underground and he seriously needs to chill out. He's really mad at Recto because all the monsters are now heading their way thanks to his loud mouth, and then he says that the monsters called trash beasts can only be slayed by special weapons or they respawn. The monsters come closer and closer while he lectures Rudo, but just before they attack, his umbrella shines brightly and grows blades at the top. With that, the masked guy spins his umbrella like a bee-blade that grinds the trash beast like a blender until all that's left are pieces falling everywhere. Seeing that the pieces melt to sand after being hit by the umbrella, Rudo figures is one of the special weapons the masked guy mentioned. Seeing a whole gang waiting for him, the masked guy charges in and instantly explodes the first monster, after which he jumps from one to the next at lightning speed that Rudo can't follow. He wonders if the umbrella is some kind of pit technology as the masked guy floats back down using his umbrella like a parachute, making Rudo really jealous because this is the kind of power he needs to avenge Recto. Just then, one of the trash monsters shoots a ball of dark sludge in its mouth, and the masked guy shields it with his umbrella, which is good because the spit explodes on impact. Next, he jumps onto the monster's head and uses his special move, Octa Shredder, that drills through its head like a jackhammer and completely annihilates it. After that, he checks up on Rudo and becomes surprised that the loudmouth is still alive, and Rudo asks him who he is. Hearing that, he takes off his mask and says he's Engine from the cleaners, but as soon as he smells Rudo, who reeks like an old man's diaper, he quickly puts the mask back on as Rudo passes out. After that, Rudo thinks back to the time when he got home covered in mud after getting bullied. He told Recto that he got beaten up again for saying that objects have feelings, and Recto was proud he didn't fight back, but Rudo told him he still believes objects that get cared for become alive, like Recto said. Recto says that the story wasn't meant to be taken literally, as it was just an old legend to teach kids to care more about their things. Hearing that, Rudo looked at all the things around them and asked if they had a soul too, which made Recto laugh. Then he looked at his worn-out gloves and asked if they had a soul too. Recto says they just might if he takes good care of them. Back to the present, Rudo wakes up and finds himself tied up with chains. He curses at Engine for tricking him, but Engine replies that's a pretty rude way to talk to someone who just saved his life. Engine explains he tied him up because there was no other way to carry him when he was passed out, so Rudo tells him to let him go now that he's awake, because he has to get revenge on the scum who framed him. Engine pauses and gives him a reality check that going back is not possible. The world Rudo came from is called the Sphere, and it floats high up in the sky, where it keeps moving, so it's impossible to go there right now. Rudo notices that he said now, which means is still possible to go there sometime later, so he yells at Engine to tell him everything about the Sphere, the monsters, and that wild power of his because he needs it to get revenge on Recto's murderer. He also swears he's not shutting up until he gets every answer. Tired of hearing him yell non-stop, Engine gets angry and tosses his mask away before telling Rudo it is time for him to learn what the pit is like. With that, Engine drags Rudo behind him like a dog all the way to a deserted area, and then tosses him into the open before telling him to enjoy his stay. Rudo yells because he didn't even get told what the lesson is, but he quiets down when he feels a masked gang staring at him. Seeing him, the guy in a red shirt goes wild when he sees a kid and wonders if it is his lucky day. He starts drooling and guesses Rudo must be from the Sphere based on his clothes, but the others doubt it. Red Shirt asks where he came from, and when Rudo says he came from above, they quickly heat their masks away and gather around him, exploding with excitement. At first, they think he's a fake because a ferret shouldn't understand their language, but Red Shirt feels his face just to be sure, which really creeps Rudo out. Red Shirt then says sorry and even offers to unchain him because of how bad he feels for Rudo, making Rudo think he finally found nice people, unlike Engine. That changes real fast, though, when he finds himself scammed into being tied up in the back of a truck, and they watch him struggle with big smiles because ferrets like him are worth millions and the masked gang can't afford to lose him. Then Red Shirt makes a creepy face and explains why people are ready to pay millions to buy ferrets like him because they all hate their guts for dropping so much trash that just breathing makes them suffer, and the monsters that don't die make it even worse. Every day, some poor family gets crushed by a trash beast or has their house destroyed. So it's no surprise that when they see a ferret, the only thing they want is to make him suffer for as long as they can. Having said that, Red Shirt becomes excited to watch Rudo get tortured, but for now, he has to keep him alive. So he has his fun stuffing nasty food into his mouth because he thinks a fancy ferret like him must be dying inside from the taste. But then Rudo skins the flesh off his fingers with his bare teeth. While the Red Shirt screams in pain, Rudo chows down the food like it's lunch. Tired of everyone he meets insulting him and giving him dumb nicknames makes Rudo so angry that his gloves activate, so he breaks his chains and says he's not going to take trash from anyone anymore. Seeing him from a distance, Engine confirms his doubt that Rudo is one of the givers, the humans who can bring objects to life. The gang rushes to tie him up again and thinks the chains are his weapon, but Rudo proves them wrong when he transforms a nearby tire, which shocks everyone because givers aren't supposed to have more than one object. After he takes out the rest of the thugs, Rudo is about to end the Red Shirt for good when Engine stops him just in time. That snaps Rudo back to his senses, and the last thing he remembers is Recto's advice about caring for his gloves. Engine apologizes for pushing him too hard and says he just wanted to test if Rudo really had the power, so he promises to tell him everything if he agrees to fight alongside the cleaners. Later, in a desolate wasteland, a guy sitting on a rooftop gets really annoyed when he receives a message from Engine, but Engine promises him that he's found a natural talent who was lost in no man's land. While a bald doctor patches Rudo up, Engine tells the boss man he's never seen powers like this recruit has and says he'll introduce him when they meet. Hearing that, Rudo angrily says he never agreed to join, but before he can argue further, the bald woman shuts him up, saying he's a real lucky kid because he'd be dead if he had breathed that toxic air much longer. Considering he also got kidnapped, the doctor yells that Rudo should be kissing the nice man's boots for saving him. Then the doctor kicks them both out, and her nagging is so loud and annoying that Rudo slams the door in her face. Rudo says he's thankful to Engine for covering his bill, but right now all he wants is information, and he doesn't have time to get involved with this cleaners gang. Engine calmly reminds him that he's a spirit and he's seen firsthand what happens to his kind when they get caught. With a deadpan stare, Engine tells him that this isn't the kind of place where information comes free either, and takes Rudo into a cyberpunk-looking city where he treats him to a Big Mac. As Rudo gobbles it down like he hasn't eaten in days, he is shocked because he thought the pit was just full of trash. But there's a whole city with real food. Next, Engine asks his name and thinks Rudo has a pretty manly name. Then he gives Rudo a quick rundown on life on the ground, where not only are there piles of trash, but piles of dark emotions as well, which they call anima. Engine explains that anima can become energy, and that energy has dangerous consequences like spawning trash beasts. These beasts usually live in the dumps and attack humans on sight, but sometimes they even go into cities. Hearing that, Rudo asks why humans don't just hole up in the cities instead, and Engine replies that ground people love their freedom too much to stay stuck in one place forever. Then Engine adds that regular weapons can't hurt trash beasts since their cores are made of anima, but that's where his glove powers come in. As Rudo looks at Recto's gloves, Engine explains that just like a chef has his trusty knife or Americans have their favorite assault rifles, when someone takes care of an object for a long time, it becomes filled with anima, and that turns it into something the cleaners call a vital instrument. These instruments have the power to destroy the anima core of trash beasts, but even though they're strong, most people can't use them, and Rudo quickly realizes he's one of the few who can, and people like him and Engine are known as givers. Realizing that Recto was right all along, Rudo looks confused, so Engine puts it simply that cleaners are just trash beast ghostbusters, and right now they need more givers on their team, which is why Engine wants Rudo to join so badly. Rudo asks the guy if he would really teach him how to climb back up if he agrees to the offer and joins the gang. Engine finally spills the beans that he actually has no idea if going back is even possible. When Rudo gets angry, Engine quickly adds that maybe his big bad boss knows something about it. Engine then gets curious, seeing the beat-up gloves on Rudo's hands, and asks who gave them to him. Rudo replies that his father was the one who did. Engine comments that people never get the simple idea that if something matters to them, they should take care of it. He appreciates the gloves, even calling them fine and saying they have a spirit. These words briefly send Rudo down memory lane, but as Engine starts to leave, the boy stops him and says he should have mentioned earlier that he owes him his life. Just as Rudo thanks him, Engine hands over some money and tells him to spend it wisely. Rudo, realizing how much money means down here, asks if he's really okay giving it away. Engine says that the money came from selling Rudo's clothes, and that's how he paid for the treatment and food too. That gets Rudo mad, but Engine quickly runs off, shouting that he's so slow considering it took him this long to figure it out, and tells him to wait while he goes to meet his trainer. As he leaves, Rudo swears to leave this dumb team the moment he learns how to climb back up. Just then, the cat decides it's the perfect time to steal the money and runs off with the sack in its mouth. Rudo makes a run for it and follows the cat into an alley, where he notices a stick lying around and picks it up, not realizing it belongs to someone nearby. As the cat slits for a second while trying to jump off a trash bin, Rudo quickly uses the rod to pin it down and manages to get his money back. Right then, the stick's actual owner shows up and tells Rudo to return what belongs to him. Rudo calls the guy stupid and argues that the money is his, but the guy clarifies that he was talking about the stick. Rudo mocks him, saying it's just a dumb stick, but that insult clearly ticks the guy off. He shoves Rudo aside, grabs the stick back, and starts sniffing it like some maniac, which is when Rudo notices he's wearing the same emblem as Engine. That's when it hits him that he's probably messed with the wrong person. But before he could get the time to apologize, the guy powers up as a giver and slams the stick, which is now glowing with a bluish aura, into the ground in front of Rudo, warning him to be ready for the consequences. He calls the boy by his name and explains that Engine has already told him everything about him. Then he adds that he's part of the Akuta Cleaners and has been assigned to train this newbie. The man introduces himself as Zanka Nejuku and gives the boy a quick lesson, telling him not to take things that belong to others. Rudo replies that he only used the stick to get his money back from the thieving cat. Zanka then tells him to pass a message to his father, saying he didn't raise him properly, which instantly gets under Rudo's skin. But before he snaps, Rudo remembers the lecture his foster daddy gave him about staying calm and thinking about what the other person might be feeling. As that memory comes back, Rudo starts to cool off, realizing that the guy is probably angry because he really did take something that belonged to him. And he would have been mad too if someone else had taken his gloves. Following his dad's advice, Rudo swallows his pride and politely apologizes while saying that he never meant to steal something so important. Hearing that, the aura around Zenka's staff disappears, and the guy says it's fine since he gave the staff back and apologizes for getting triggered so fast and scaring his new student. Rudo's jaw drops to the floor on his first time defusing a fight like Recto taught him, and Zenka gives him a hand as they're going to be comrades moving forward. When he asks Rudo what his weapon is and what it does, our boy says he doesn't really know, and he goes speechless when Zenka starts appreciating how cool his gloves look. Seeing the smile on his face, Rudo remembers that Recto always told him to fix his serial murderer face with a smile, and he tries his hardest to smile like he practiced before. At that moment, Zenka asks him if he's joining, and Rudo says he didn't exactly join yet, and just wants to help out till he gets what he wants with his best smile on his face. Suddenly, Stickman goes mad thinking Rudo is showing disrespect with his nasty face, while Rudo does some mental gymnastics to explain how that was actually a smile. Hearing that, Zenka claims that's the creepiest smile he's seen in his life, so Rudo thinks his eyes were the problem, so he tries again with another goofy face that instantly makes Zenka so angry he wonders if the new kid wants a piece of him. The two fight like animals, and Zenka tells Rudo his talent doesn't mean he can just work till he gets what he's after, while cleaners like him put their lives on the line to protect their people every single day, and if he can even seriously talk about his goal, then it must be just as worthless as him. Hearing Zenka call Recto's final request to change this trash world worthless, Rudo makes it clear he's as serious as it gets, so Zenka should shut up. Zenka says he knew he wouldn't get along with Rudo the moment he saw him, and Rudo says he feels the same as he raises his weapon. Seeing that, Stickman is surprised that he has an object other than his gloves, and it hits the guy that Rudo has the power to turn anything he touches into a vital instrument. Zenka laughs at how cracked his natural talent is, but he says it doesn't matter because his talent's got nothing on him. Just then, Zenka's stick comes crashing right in front of Rudo, and he pushes Rudo back with a flurry of non-stop heavy hits while mocking him that it's pretty embarrassing to get beaten up with a flimsy stick. Then, Rudo takes a swing that barely scrapes his face before the guy humbles in with a single overhead smash. After that, he thinks Rudo's power was nothing, but when he sniffs the stuff on his cheek, he freaks out because Rudo was using a plunger as his weapon, and that means he just got poo on his flawless face. Rudo ignores the clean freak and keeps trying to hit the stick dude with a plunger. The clean freak quickly switches from attacking to defending mode, which makes Rudo wonder why this new weapon is actually working so well. He chases after his trainer, who is now practically begging for his life. The two run all over the place, and just as they get out of the alley, a cat jumps in again and makes the clean freak slip. Rudo goes in for another attack, but ends up splashing the poor guy's clothes with poo, leaving him in a complete mess. Right at that moment, Engine shows up and asks if he was late, and the two had already become best buddies. As they catch him up while driving, Engine bursts out laughing and jokes that Rudo sealed the deal with the poop barrage. Zanka sits quietly, covering his face in shame after being attacked like that, while the dumb kid stays there in an apologetic pose, realizing how ridiculous his solo fight was and how overly confident he had gotten. Trying to shift the mood, Engine tells the boy that Zanka is actually a great guy and will be his teacher from now on. Hearing that, Zanka perks up a little as he gets a bit pleased with the compliment. Just then, a red-haired girl named Rio suddenly shows up in the back seats out of nowhere. She says that she just got curious and starts playing with Rudo's hair, which makes him wonder if there is such a good life in the pit, which was supposed to be hell. Engine keeps driving and tells them that their next stop will be the Cleaners HQ. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.